I want to take this one.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're supposed to get seats?
No, you're good. I've never seen so many cell phones in my life. But yeah, really quickly, why don't you first just start off by like, how's life going? What are you up to these days? I know you've kind of made a big decision recently, so kind of share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I am here in LA basically for this and to move. So we're moving this upcoming week, so just a lot of boxes and getting ready. Moving out of my LA apartment and then moving to Charlotte. So I'll be there next year for it's a 2-year thing, and then pretty much moving every year, new place, new city every season. So just kind of doing everything I can to transition smoothly.
Yeah. What was that decision like? Because I know, like, for a lot of us, we stayed in the same place for kind of a long time, but you've literally moved to 3 different cities in 3 years.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I always think, like, or I always get to a new team or a new city, and I'm like, man, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be the one. And it never ends up like that. It's probably why I'm here, because the road less traveled. Not many people move 5 times in 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my thought process, people think it's like really exciting to be a free agency, and normally it is. It's like like if you're like a DeAndre Jordan where you have a ton of offers and you get to make an easy decision. But for me, I had to wait for a lot of different pieces, and so sometimes that can get a little stressful, or things never really go smoothly, at least for me, in any free agency or restricted free agency.
Yeah. I feel like every time I'm just watching, I have to figure out how to get rid of my LA Lakers tattoo and switch that to like a Buzz City one.
Yeah. I gotta like switch out my closet every year too. It's like, oh, new team, throwing this away, throwing that away.
How do you feel about just North Carolina and Charlotte and all those things?
Are you from there?
We got some North Carolina.
Oh, very nice. What do you do? What is there to do out there? Fried chicken, not part of my diet, but on my cheat days, I'm gonna get fried chicken. I hear there's like, fishing and duck hunting and stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a culinary school near the arena, so I got really into cooking last year. So I'm gonna take some classes probably.
Nice. What is your like specialty dish? Like, all of your friends are coming over. What are you making for us?
My buddy is a chef, and so he taught me this one recipe. Basically, it's like an oven roasted chicken, and you have like a balsamic with jalapeno, garlic, and green onions, and you kind of make the sauce into a syrupy thing, and that's pretty awesome.
That's like a legit. I thought you were gonna say, oh yeah, just throw something.
Oh no, like
for real.
I got trained. Like my friend is a legit chef, and he's like opening a restaurant and stuff. So like he came like 3, 4, 5 times last year and just started teaching me a bunch of different at nice restaurants, unless it's like sushi, because I feel like I don't like sitting in a restaurant for like 2 hours and like waiting for like a 5-course meal.
Yeah.
I just like my food like instant, and then I devour it and then I leave. So last year, a lot of times if we would eat, it'd be like California Chicken Cafe, Chipotle, Tender Greens, stuff. Where basically where you walk up, you order it, they give it to you, and then you eat.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. As you kind of go through, and now you're at least, you're in your 4th year? You're in 5th?
I am
6th. Some people know better than both of us.
6.
You're
5th.
entering in your...
Hold on, let me count. Golden State. I just finished my 5th, so I'm going to my 6th.
Okay. So knowing that you're essentially approaching, like, for an average NBA player, like your expected time, like, how does that feel for you? Does it make you scared ever, or are you kind of nervous, or like, are you excited about like what's next potentially? I know you're still very young, but
yeah, it's weird because like I'm a veteran now. I'm kind of like considered an older person, but I'm still 26. So it's a little bit different. I think when we think about our professional career, we understand there's like basically a 10-year, if things go well, there's a 10-year window to make money and support your family for the rest of your life. That's basically how most athletes do things, or should do things. So for me, I guess I'm excited because usually 27 to 29 is like your athletic prime, and so that's what I'm going into, which is a big reason why like free agency for me was a big deal this year. It's not like I'm 30 something and I'm winding down. Like I think for me, I'm just getting started, and I'm going into what should be the best time or the best part of my career. So Very, very excited about that, and just looking for, feel like I found a good opportunity, and hopefully it turns out a lot better than a couple of the other opportunities I've had in the past.
Yeah, we're excited for you.
It happened so fast, it went by so fast, and I was like so scared I almost didn't have time to enjoy it, and that's kind of my biggest regret. The other thing, it was the lockout season, so we were literally playing like 3 games in a row, 4 games in 5 nights, 4 games in 6 nights, and so you have a great game. It's not like football, you have a great game, you can walk around like all cool and everything for a week. It was just like, all right, great game, okay, we have another one tomorrow, like don't get roasted by whoever you're playing tomorrow. So it was like literally everything happened so fast, and you enjoy it for like that dinner, and then it'd be like, all right, on to the next scouting report. And so the one thing I always wished was I enjoyed it more. But it was so fun on the court, like it was so fun because you've been cut and sent to the D League and whatnot, and so to be able to finally kind of play and then do a lot of cool things, whether it's breaking down stereotypes or shocking the world or different things, or glorifying God through what I was doing. I just felt like it was a culmination of years and years of work and frustration. So that part was pretty awesome.
I've been to like tons of Madison Square Garden games, and that was literally the most insane time I've ever seen it.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask like what's the number one moment that you ever had in your whole basketball life playing 20-something years, I would say it was that game when I hit a 3 on the baseline, and I remember they called a timeout, and I swear I'm not even exaggerating, it was so loud I felt like I was 3 inches off the ground. Like I had never been in an environment that was that loud. Like it was like, yeah, it was like crazy. And I just remember thinking, I like looked down because I was like, yo, it might be like, we all might be in the air right now because it's like shaking and like yelling so loud. And it was like really cool. And then, but it only lasted like a second.
It was floating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because even when I looked around, everyone had your jersey on. There's all these little kids just running around with your jersey on. This is insane. I was freaking out. But, for a lot of us, we will never necessarily know what it means to be at the height of your career and to be, really influential and really popular in that way. Coming out of that now, looking retrospectively at it, how do you feel about that time, and what is it that you kind of learned in that experience?
Yeah, I learned a lot. I think the one thing I really learned, and it's going to be like a total Debbie Downer, but it honestly is the one thing I've learned, is just like, your worldly goals and your worldly dreams are so fleeting. Like it's like almost like you finally get it, and then like it vanishes into thin air and goes right through your hand. Because I remember it was just like, all right, that's great, like this is awesome, and then like 2 days later it's like, all right, well, what's the next goal, what's the next thing? And I think like if you look at life, a lot of times that's how it all is. It's like, man, if only I could get to the best college, and then I got to Harvard, and the next thing was like, all right, well, placement exams, you better do well, and then grades, and then grades, and then grades, and then like, all right, after 4 years, it's like, I better get a good job. Then I got my dream job, and then I was like, all right, well, now I need to perform well in my dream job. So I performed well, and then it was like, okay, now I need to do even better. And so if you look at like the top guys in society, I would argue that they aren't nearly as happy as maybe you might think they are, or that it's as fulfilling. And so that's the one thing I learned through that, was just like, man, it was great, but it came and went so quickly, and then it was just like within like literally days, weeks, it was like, all right, I'm on to the next thing. What's the next thing? And so that really challenged my understanding of success. And as I go now into what I'm going through and dealing with what I'm dealing with, I think that experience will always like be in the back of my mind in terms of shaping who I am or how I perceive things. 6?
18 to 31.
18 to 31. Yeah, okay, so then I know exactly what it's like to be in your shoes, because I'm in it right now. And I think for me, I don't want to like be extra preachy, but I can only express to you guys what I've experienced myself, or what I believe to be true myself, and that's just like my faith has always been, through the highs and lows of life, my faith has always been the one thing that's really been steady and has always given me a deeper purpose. And so, finding ways to love Christ, and I think that really, and love Christ and love other people, is what has like allowed me to have actual fulfillment and satisfaction. And so what I mean by that practically is if you look at last season, it's like, man, we set the franchise record for most losses, and everyone knows how the Lakers did, and it was like we won 21 games, which might seem like a lot until you realize we played at 82 of them. And it's just kind of like, you know, it's like, all right, well, that's definitely, you know, there's nothing to be taken away from that season. Like, just hide your face and, you know, run away and pretend like it never happened. But I think last year in a lot of ways was actually a big year for me. And I think if I look back at like what I define as success, I would say I'm actually pretty happy with, never happy with the result in terms of the record, but really happy with what I felt like I was trying to do with my own life. And to me, like, I took a lot of big steps last year in trying to get out of my comfort zone. So like I started a Bible study, and we did it the whole year with my teammates. And because a lot of us were going through a lot of crap, like with the season and, you know, lineups and not playing a lot or not playing well and whatever, like guys really opened up, we prayed for each other. We really shared and we were vulnerable about stuff. And then I think like I got to hang out with a lot of homeless people because in LA there's just a lot of homeless people, and normally while you're driving by it's just kind of like, you know, all right, well, whatever, like onto my own thing. But pausing and really like taking time out of your day, you know, your money, your time, your attitude. I remember there was this one story where I was like talking to this dude, and he literally was homeless. He was fresh homeless, like 2 days on the streets. And you could tell because, you know, he was still dressed nicely. He looked like he was just chilling at the park. He ended up being homeless because, you know, whatever, I won't get into his story, but he was on the streets. And the night before I had a really tough game, and so I was like talking to him and just trying to forget about the game. And he was like, man, I just want to say, like, I'm thankful to God. Today is a beautiful day. Like, look at the sky. It is just beautiful. And it was like bright blue skies, and I was just like, man, like, you know, here I am in the NBA getting paid a ton of money to play in front of thousands of fans, to be able to have this platform to reach millions and millions. And, you know, I'm tripping about what happened last night, and this guy who does not have a house, literally does not know he's going to sleep tonight, like, you know, has this perspective. And so doing different things like that made me realize, like, because of New York and because I've been to the top, like, even if last season went perfectly, I know, like, yeah, that would have been fun, it would have been great, and I would have been happy, but there's a difference between happiness and joy, right? I think joy is much deeper. I think joy is not based on your circumstances versus happiness is like, hey, today I have, like, for me, an In-N-Out burger, yay, I'm happy, right? But joy is like something much deeper where it's like, you understand, like, you know, regardless of what happens today, there will still be joy. And so that's what I really challenged myself with last year. And, you know, that's what I challenge you guys with. I'm not saying don't work hard, don't go after your dreams, because I'm doing that every day. But to be able to have that and put that in a certain lens where it's not your end-all be-all, it's not who you are as a person. I think that's really important for, you know, us Asians who tend to be ambitious.
Can you just share with us a little bit more about, like, what's really on your heart in terms of other things that you enjoy doing with your time and kind of your energy?
You saying like hobbies or like
Let's go first. Stuff? Let's do foundation stuff first.
Yeah, my foundation, like, I love kids. Like, I'm basically a kid. That's what my family calls me, is just like an overgrown child. I know, like, yeah, okay, anyways. So I just love being around kids, because honestly, when I hang out with kids, I feel like it's such a pure and innocent relationship. Like, they say what they say, that they're not like, oh my God, like, you're on TV or you're in the NBA or whatever. It's just like, it's just a pure relationship. They're like, if I piss them off, they're like, you pissed me off, you know? So it's like, that's refreshing to me these days, for somebody who's gonna be like, dude, you're just annoying. I'm like, all right. So I think I've always just enjoyed hanging out with kids, and so one thing that I want to do with my foundation is just really help underprivileged children. And I think there are a lot of issues in the world that are just kind of swept under the rug, and so each community has different issues and looks different, so we don't feel like there's a blueprint solution. And so what we try to do is whatever city I go to try to fill in, you know, a gap or a hole that we think that society has. And so in Houston, we found out, like, immigrants and refugees was a huge issue there. In Taiwan, Aboriginals, which are basically like Native Americans here, treated very poorly. In China, it's like a lot of migrant workers. When they move to a different city, their kids can't go to the better schools there, and so they end up going to these like really bad schools. And then also mentally handicapped people in China don't get the same attention as they would here in the U.S. So in LA last year, we found out like there's a lot of homeless people, and that's kind of what we felt like was one of the holes here. So we just try to do that as much as we can, and really survey a community, find out what their need is, and then just try to target children who are kind of behind the 8 ball in terms of education or financial resources. And then we just try to love them. You know, it's not so much like, hey, here's a check. It's more of the relationship, the impact that you build with the kid. Because when I was young, I was a terrible kid, and I just had like the right role models to help me. I felt their love, and that's why I ended up turning a corner. And so if I could help kids do that today, that'd be pretty awesome. Behind the camera, I really like, and I'm cool with it. So like that's why the guy who does all my social media is like, he's with me every day. He moves with me from city to city. And he's a really good friend of mine, and so it's very natural. So those YouTube videos that you see are like, I'm like totally relaxed. But then if you get me on set where they got those little weird cranes and people flying around upstairs like looking down and like, oh, he didn't do that right, I'm just like, oh, I don't know what to do. So that's why for me, I always, when I want to make a production or something that like is actually like a little bit more movie-esque, Jubilee, I'm very comfortable with Jason and the other guys here. So it's like, all right, well, as long as they're there, I'm good.
We just have to turn the camera on and he just like makes it happen. A magic.
Wish.
He'd be like, all right, one take. Oh, I'm good.
Yeah. I love Dota. I play with my family and my friends. And then, honestly, it's not so much what we do, it's the people that I hang out with. It's just my family, my friends, like we have a great time. Like we could literally just watch grass grow and it'd be fun with the right people. Anything, cards, movies, we play Mafia a lot, he knows. Anything.
Jeremy is like a really good Mafia player. Incredibly good. In that the one time we played,
we played one time.
That I feel like you've got like a really good sense for people. And I'm sure it's because you've met so many people. But is that just that game, or because I was so obvious, or because, or you're actually good?
I feel like I could read people decently well, but it just depends. You probably caught me on a good day.
Yeah. He had this like a Disney blanket on.
Oh yeah.
Right? He was sitting in the corner. He goes, "Okay, I think it's Jason and Eddie," and he's like, "Exactly right." But yeah, one of the things we've been talking about just this morning as we've been kicking off is this idea of community and tribes. How important it is to surround yourself with people who also have courage, who will also encourage you. I know like you're super close to your family. Every time I see you, you're with family and your friends, but can you talk a little bit about how community is for you and who you surround yourself with and what that's like?
Yeah, for me, my family is like, I'm not closer to anybody in this world than my brothers, my older brother, my younger brother. And so that's always been something that, maybe I've taken for granted because, a lot of people have siblings and it might not be the same. Like for us, we're literally like triplets in terms of what we like to do, how we talk, how we act. Like we're all very immature, and like we think the same jokes are funny, and everyone else is just looking at us like, okay, that's just the Lin boys being the Lin boys. But besides that, that's not like, not everybody's gonna have that opportunity. I think in terms of friends and stuff, I try to surround myself with actually a mix of people. I think like in terms of my core, I need people who won't tempt me to do or live a certain way that I don't want to live. I think that's very important. You got to have people around you who are going to be good influences, who will tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. And then I think it's dangerous to only surround yourself with those types of people. Like for me, if like I only surround myself with like Christians who think a certain way, then it's like I actually think that's not how we're called to live. I think we're called to reach and love every different type of person. And so if you look at maybe some of the people that I spend a lot of time with, I definitely have good influences and people who will shoot me straight. But then I also have other people who, might not be Christian at all, or just, maybe people who just live a different lifestyle that I live, and it's okay as long as they understand, who I am and, how, we've like basically all my close friends who aren't, Christians, we've had conversations about like what faith means, and the biggest thing is like, it's just, you just learn to love them and they learn to love you, and you respect each other for who you are. And I think learning from different types of people, challenging each other's perspectives is a really healthy thing. And so that's what I would suggest in terms of finding community.
Yeah. That's one question I've got randomly is like, have you ever been when you're just like super starstruck and you're freaking out? But I know that every time, people meet you, they're just, no one knows what to say, right? But have you ever been like that with anyone else that you've met so far, or not really?
I don't think so, because like I'm just not somebody who's gonna like fanboy over somebody, but it's not because like it was just like my personality from when I was a little kid.
Okay.
It was just like I just have always been like, more of like I'm just more like bold in terms of like whatever, like okay, that's great, I respect that, but like I'm not like, that's why I kind of like really relate with Naruto. You guys watch Naruto?
Of course,
because Naruto doesn't care if you're like Hokage or not. He's gonna say what he wants, right? Like it's just this. That's kind of been my personality, and so there are definitely people I really admire and I've met, but I was never like, oh shoot, like what do I do? I remember like we were at the ESPYs, and then like I actually don't remember the award that I got, but it was like some award, and I went up and it was Jessica Biel, and I didn't even know who it was, and she like gave me like a hug and a kiss on the cheek, and I didn't, it was like, this was like right after New York, like I didn't even know how to like properly like do the whole formal thing, so I was just like, I stood there awkwardly, and then Tebow was up there, who I really respect as well, gave him a high five. And then after, like, I looked at my phone, I was blown up. It was like, hey, man, when Jessica Biel kisses you on the cheek, you kiss her on the cheek back, okay? And everyone was saying that. I was like, do you know who that is? Like, do you know who that is? And I was like, no. And I had to, like, Google her because I didn't know who that was at the time. And I was just like, It was just like, to me, I'm so, like, removed from, like, the whole thing that it was just like, even when I meet really famous people, I don't even know who they are half the time. It's, like, pretty embarrassing. Like I'm just like so engrossed in like whatever I enjoy doing, which is like basketball. And like, having said that, Michael Jordan is my hero, and I'm now working for him, and I have not met him. So maybe when I do meet him, maybe I'll just be like, yes sir. I don't know. Maybe. If so, I'll let you guys know.
He's gonna like challenge you to one-on-one. I feel like
I would definitely play. I don't know if I would win, but that'd be so fun. That'd be cool to do it, right?
We've all dreamed of that.
Yeah.
For all of us, please.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
I can just imagine you standing next to Jessica Biel and you've got like your Google out and she's like, oh, what are you doing? It's like all these photos for her.
No, nothing.
It's like, who is this girl?
I had heard of her too, so it's like when they said that, I was like, oh, but like I didn't really like
process it.
I didn't know it was like, at the time I didn't know it was like, oh, musician, actress, like what is, like I just remember hearing that name a bunch of times, and it was because, there's one thing that like me and my boys who are always with me and stuff, like we just see it right away, because when someone goes, oh yeah, because we're trained to like, now it's just like we're like everywhere we go, we like my eyes are down so that they don't see my face, but I see everything that's going on. And so like sometimes we walk in my, I'll hear like 10 o'clock. So like 10 o'clock means like he's gonna walk to my 10 o'clock, and then he's gonna stand there, and as the person's walking by, I'm gonna slow up so that it's so they never get a catch up in my face. Like, so we probably see, like, we're seeing, like, we know we're like, all right, dude on the right, red shirt, like, and then, like, and then they kind of look at their phone, they send out a text, they Google image, and they look up again, they walk around the table, they go to the bathroom, they come back, and then, like, finally they're like, hey, can I get a picture? And it's like, yeah. Actually, honestly, if you just go up right away and ask them, I think that's, like,
it's better.
Yeah.
As long as they're not,
versus, like, walking around, because when they do that, then I get real nervous. I'm like, am I gonna get shanked? Am I gonna... like what's going on, like he's behind me right now, like I don't know what's going on, so
That's kind of why John mentioned he could grab a knife when I came up. He's like, oh, this guy, he's been following me from LA, all the Houston bathroom. Like,
So you either go for it or you don't. Like, but yeah, that's probably the best. That's probably the best thing to do is either you're like, hey man, I really respect you, can you get a picture, or just
yeah.
You know.
And if people say no, if you say no, then they just kind of respect that as well. And like,
yeah, don't argue back.
Yeah, don't be like no. I think that's good advice, especially if there's a lot of Asian Americans here in the room, and I think we're very like, and that happens when you almost. Have you ever had this where you almost want to be like, hey, do you want to take a picture with me? But it sounds so.
Yeah, it's very
presumptuous.
Yeah, and I've had that backfire before too. Where it's like, hey, you want a picture? And they're like,
why?
No. I'm like, okay. But yeah, no, there have been times where I'll just be like, all right, like after I get like, if it's like going on and on, like, and then they do it for like 5 minutes, they're like, I just go like this, I'm like, hey, come over here, and I'm like, yeah, let's take a picture, and then.
That's good.
And then they're like, okay, cool, got the picture. Next thing they're on Instagram for or whatever. They're looking at the picture and they're not looking at you anymore. So it's like it's a lot easier. But nah, I mean,
no,
it's like right? you learn to take that for granted. I mean, like through time, it's like, man, you take it for granted, but then like as you get older, you're like, man, it's really cool, like people support you and stuff. So yeah, I think the thing that really shocks me is the documentary. Mm-hmm. People still always talk about the documentary, like, man, I loved your documentary, like, and then they'll say a scene that like I don't really even remember that well. I'm like, whoa, like, oh yeah, I forgot that was in there. And they're like, that really impacted me because of this, and this, and I was going through this, and I watched it at this time, and I'm like, man, like, praise God, that's really cool to hear. And so I think those are, stuff like that, or when they say like, man, I was, a lot of times people say like, oh, I watched this game and it was really fun, and that's cool. But then I think the ones that really mean a lot to me are the ones that are like, there's something deeper beyond it. It's like, hey, I was really struggling with this, or like. We've had stories of like, ADHD, depression, eating disorder, or whatever, and so people send in different stories, and it's just, it's cool to see like that. I guess we get a chance to touch people that we've never met and probably will never meet again, and like we don't know their names, we don't know anything, but we're able to make an impact. I think that's one of the positives of social media, is that we're able to do stuff like that, just through so much sharing.
Yeah.
The ball a billion times. It's just like, man, it is scary. It's scary to take that road because, at any point in the journey, it's like, this is my life. Like I play a bad game or I get a bad injury, and it could be it. That's literally how fragile this thing is. And there's many times my rookie year, I was in the D League and stuff, and I said, I was basically like, look, I'll probably try to finish out this year, and this might be it for me. And my mom was telling me, because my mom saw really how hard it was. Like, she would see me when I would just break down. I'd be like in the D League, like hotel hallway, just like breaking down, like, dude, I can't do this, because I just felt like there was so much pressure. It's like, man, if you don't do well tomorrow, like, all right, look, you're gonna play 30 minutes, and if you don't play well in those 30 minutes, like, you could be traded, you could be cut. Well, not traded, you could be cut, because they weren't looking to trade minimum players, but it was that fragile for me at one point, and I was like, I don't know if I can handle the stress of like, feeling like every shot that I take is gonna like feed me for the whatever. And so I was just like really struggling with it, and then I ended up getting cut. So I got cut, I went to Houston, and they had 6 point guards when I got there, and you can only really keep 2 to 3. And so it was kind of, the writing was on the wall for me. They had 3 under contract already, which means like they're guaranteed. So I was like, all right, there's no room for me, I don't know, I'm here. So I remember I packed my locker. I put it all in a bag. I didn't tell anybody. I put everything in my locker, and I just walked out. And as I was walking out, I called my agent. I said, look, I'm done here. You could go ahead and tell him to just go ahead and cut me. I'm good. I'm not coming back. And I had everything packed, and we had a night practice. This is after the morning practice. And he called me later, and he's like, look, man, like, I understand how you feel, but like, you gotta walk back in there and you gotta go to practice tonight, and you gotta stick with it. And this is just one of many examples, but to me that was most vivid because I physically packed everything and was like, I'm done, I'm leaving. So it was kind of awkward when I walked back in with all my stuff. Like, oh, you? Like, hey, yeah, what's that big bag of all your stuff? Oh, so, yeah, don't worry about it, just let me in. So I think for me, it was, there were a lot of moments, even growing up, where like, I really questioned it because people really attacked my family as well. They're kind of like, man, you're wasting all this money letting your kids play basketball, and like, in Chinese it's like, oh, 你不能靠篮球吃饭. It's like, you can't rely on basketball to feed you. Like, this is what everyone always told me growing up. And so they'd always try to discourage me, and then I told people, like, I was like, I'm gonna play college basketball, and they're like, oh, Jeremy, you're so sweet, you should have realistic dreams. What are you saying? Like, I was like, what? Because back then being an Asian basketball player was so foreign, and so every step I went, it was just like, people would make fun of me, or they would try to politely discourage me. Like, I remember my grandmother would always call me once a year and be like, hey, look, you should quit the basketball team and just be a doctor, because she's a doctor. And so there's a lot of these areas where it's like, and then every time things don't go well, you kind of doubt yourself. You're like, man, is this the path? Is this the path? Is this what I want to do? And the one thing that's always, stuck with me is, dude, just when I'm on the court, I feel like I'm like free. It's like I feel like I'm in a different world. I don't feel like I'm on planet Earth. I feel like I'm just doing something else. Like, you're in the moment, you got the adrenaline, you're thinking about the game, and nothing else matters. Like I could have gotten an F yesterday, or my house could have burned down, and like, if I'm on the court playing, I literally won't be thinking about that stuff. Like, I feel like I'm on another reality or whatever. So for me, I just felt like the passion was too deep, and so I was always like, man, I gotta stick with it until I can't play anymore. And I never thought, like, actually they didn't even know if I was gonna make it to my high school team. I didn't know if I was gonna make it to my high school team. And now I'm, entering my 6th year in the pros, and that's why it kind of goes back to the community thing. Like, there are a lot of people who, actually wouldn't let me quit when I wanted to quit. And there were times when it's not like I'm this like super strong person who like can always will myself to victory or success. There was a lot of areas where I was very weak and vulnerable. Times when I couldn't sleep before games, couldn't eat before games, losing 10, 15 pounds because just not able to eat, just of nervousness. And people were there for me. So there's always going to be trials and tribulations in life. But I honestly think that like whatever you're passionate about, that's what you should go for, unless it's like, unless it's like drug dealing or something like ridiculous. Like anything else that's like beneficial to you and you're passionate about, I think like you really should go for it and have no regrets.
Yeah.
Actually got me through college, so thank you, Grandma. That's part of why she had more license to tell me what to do, because I was going to school on her dime, because my parents couldn't really afford it. But I think some of my parents' friends, afterwards they're like, hey, so saw your son got into Harvard. What sport can my child play to get in? And they'd be like, it's all of a sudden like now we're looking at like squash, fencing, and like rowing, like the most obscure sports to get their children into college. And so it was like, sorry if anybody plays those sports. I'm not saying they're bad sports. It's just they're not popular sports. So it's just funny to see how people change, how much the perception. All of a sudden it's like once they realize, oh man, it is a viable option. Like now you challenge their notion, and that's why I said, oftentimes when we talk about breaking stereotypes, we're not just talking about what everyone thinks of Asian Americans. We're talking about what Asian Americans think of Asian Americans as well. I think there's just a lot of like preconceptions that people always draw, and I think as long as you stay true to what you feel like you believe in, I think that you'll naturally eliminate a lot of what other people think. Because when you start listening to too much to what everybody else thinks, you can lose sight of what you're supposed to be doing. So it's funny to see how people change and turn a corner in terms of their thought process. I'm a very bold person. I used to always give predictions like I'm gonna do this, and this. And then after, things don't go well for a while, you're kind of like, all right, I'm gonna just go ahead and stop predicting. That's a good question. I've actually been thinking about that myself as training camps come around the corner, and I think about like, all right, because I'm a very detailed person in terms of like, all right, these are my goals. These are like my short-term goals. These are my long-term goals. This is how I feel like I can go about achieving it. But the biggest thing that I've really learned is actually just to trust God and pray a lot and wait. And I know like waiting seems like it's submissive, it's passive, it's weak. But I've actually learned that like true strength comes a lot in waiting, because I actually think that's like the stronger thing to do versus just to try to jump to a conclusion or try to, for me, I could easily sit here and say, next year my goal is to, whether it's playoffs or to start or to win X amount of games or average X amount of points. But reality of the situation is I can't control a lot of these things. And so one thing I've really, going back to the topic of success, is like, look, I'm gonna make sure every day I work as hard as I can, and then no matter what happens, like I'm gonna live a certain way. Like I'm gonna be a certain person, I'm gonna live a certain way. And I could tell you what I hope would happen, but I wouldn't say that those, like, again, those aren't my, like, it's not gonna be my ultimate and only barometer of success for next year. So I guess, sorry to be long-winded, but if I could go into what I would hope to happen, I would hope I make the playoffs. I would hope I have a big role, and I would hope I would establish myself as, I just want to get as close to my potential as I can. And I feel like the last few years I haven't been able to do that. Part of that is my fault. I think there have been a lot of external factors as well that have not facilitated my growth. And so me working on certain things this summer and going into what I feel like is a healthier environment for me, I'm hoping to have somewhat of a breakout year.